y'all. Coming to you from Asheville, North Carolina. This is GovLove, a podcast about local government brought to you by engaging local government leaders. I'm Rafael Baptista, Buncombe County Strategy Director and GovLove co-host. We have a great episode for you today. We'll be talking about customer service and leadership with Lee Cockerell. But first, the best way to support GovLove is to become an ELGL member. ELGL is a professional association engaging the brightest minds in local government. Now, let me introduce today's guest. Lee Cockerell is the former Executive Vice President of Operations for Walt Disney World. One of his lasting legacies is the Disney Great Leader Strategies, which was used to train and develop 7,000 leaders at Walt Disney World. Lee is now dedicated to public speaking, leading workshops, and consulting for organizations around the world. He runs the Cockerell Academy, has authored books on leadership, management, service excellence. Lee, thanks so much for joining us and welcome to GovLove.
Well, thank you. Nice. North Carolina lately, so good to see it.
Yeah, hey, you got to come out and spend some time. We got a great tourist economy here.
No, you do. Yeah.
We had an article in the newspaper today talking about, we had a record-breaking year, and I was driving into the office today, and I realized when I was reading the billboards coming into the office, all our billboards are targeted at tourists.
Yeah, well, that's where the money comes from.
So
people spend more when they're on vacation.
Oh yeah, I know that all too well, having just gone on vacation with my family. So, well, one of our traditions on GovLove is we just do some quite lighthearted questions at the beginning, kind of a lightning round. Our audience members like to know people better. And as the guy who used to be Mickey Mouse's boss, I gotta ask, what is your favorite Disney memory, if you have one?
Well, actually, Mickey Mouse was my boss, so without Mickey, we'd all be unemployed. So, yeah. So what was the question again? I'm sorry.
Do you have like a favorite Disney memory or a special memory from Disney?
Well, I opened Disneyland Paris, and I was there 3 years, and of course that was, I think, emotionally a very big deal because we went from nothing to having to convince Europe that Disney was a good idea in France, and we opened, and we had a spectacular opening night, and everything went well. And I was so exhausted by the end of the night, I think I slept for 2 days. And we had 10,000 people for the opening party, and they were all in hotel rooms. We had to check their bags. We didn't lose one bag.
Oh, wow.
Which was amazing. We had a lot of people from Disney World came over to help us, the experts that know what they're doing. But yeah, that was a pretty big deal of working with people who didn't know much about Disney because they don't grow up there with Disney like we do. And just generally seeing the reaction of people from all over Europe, it was pretty cool. Yeah.
That is neat. I'll confess, I've never been to Disney World. As a guy who grew up in Oregon, I've been to Disneyland, but I've yet to make it to Disney World.
Well, I'd never been to Disney World until I went to work for them, but I didn't tell them that during the interview.
Is that one of the questions in the interview?
No, but I'd been to Disneyland too, because I lived in LA for a few years when I was with Hilton Hotels. Yeah.
So what book are you reading these days?
Actually, I am just now reading a book, and I don't even have the title. It's in the other room, but it talks about the 1930s and 1940s of the serious problem we have with a lot of Americans supporting fascism and supporting Hitler, and even 18 congressmen who were actually taking money from Hitler's government and publishing things and using their free postage to send out millions of brochures to Americans. And that was an enlightenment. I didn't know that much about that period so much, and I was interested in it. And so, yeah, and I'm about to finish it. I'm one of these people that takes me 3 weeks to read a book because I read about 20 minutes and fall asleep. So, but yeah, I read a lot of books on leadership, management, customer service, and occasionally take a break. It's kind of like going to one of those seminars to improve you. I don't want to get improved too much more. I dream about customer service in my sleep now, and so
Yeah, I just I've been listening to a red teaming book. I'm learning about how to red team and um, problem solve and all that. And that's been pretty interesting.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
all righty. And the last kind of fun question, if you will, is there a favorite hidden gem that you have where you live?
A hidden gem.
Yeah, hidden gem, like something that you
Oh,
love going to that most people don't know about that they should know
okay.
about.
Thought you were going to talk about my workout at 4:20 today at the
You
gym.
woke, you worked out at 4:20 in the morning?
No, at afternoon I work out at 4:20. I do
Oh,
strength, agility, and balance twice a week with a guy at 4:20 in the afternoon on Monday and Thursday.
gotcha. I was gonna say 4:20 a.m. That's some dedication.
No, I'm just turning over at 4:20. But hidden gem, it's funny how that becomes the case. I go for coffee every morning. It's called Coffee for the Soul. Now, I go there. The lady opened 3 years ago. It used to be Brazilian, and I used to go there. It was great. And then the pandemic, she had to shut down because there was no business, couldn't pay the rent. And so this one opened. This lady is from Colombia and opened this coffee shop. It's called Coffee for the Soul. I go there every day. They email me if I'm not there, want to know where I am. I support them in many ways. And you know what? It's great to go to a place where they're happy to see you in the morning, where they miss you if you're not there. The place is fabulous. The music is great. The food is great. The coffee is great. The bathroom is clean. They don't run out of toilet paper. The music is good. And for me, finding that spot where you can go and do work and not be distracted. I could never work at home. I'd go take a nap. Or go to the fridge and eat cheesecake or something. So I like to have that kind of play. It's like 100%. I had a meeting there this morning with two guys. We always meet there. I bring them business, and I had so it's just one of those special places for me. And now the fun thing also is to go to the beach. The beach is only an hour away, and we have a condo at the beach. When you go to the beach, when you go over the causeway, you get totally relaxed. I don't know anybody over there. There's no problems. I don't have to comb my hair. Uh, so the beach is really a place where I'm sure a lot of people relax.
Yeah,
And that's the same in North Carolina.
yeah, yeah. I do love the beach.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like a great coffee shop. Sounds a lot better than the coffee shops that I sometimes go to. Where I feel like they're trying to get me out the door, not in the door.
At this one, you don't get a paper cup. You get a real cup, large one. I mean, it's just once you go there, you're a mess. You can never go anywhere else. So if you
All
come here,
right,
let me know and we'll go there.
sounds good. All right, so the reason I asked you to come on here is I read your books and I listen to your podcast every week, and I think the way you talk about customer service is so interesting. Um, and I think for a government audience, there's a stereotype that government doesn't offer great customer service. And I always think, I don't know, I think we offer good customer service. But the other day, I spent some time in our facilities waiting on meetings, and I realized that, yeah, we could probably do a better job. There's some room for improvement. But, Disney World has the reputation of it's the Magic Kingdom, right? It's magical experience. I've never even been, and that's my expectation what Disney is. And it's a guy who worked there for so long and had the role you did. For you, what is exceptional customer service? How do you define an organization that provides that level of customer service, or even a place like Coffee for Your Soul? How do you define customer service?
Somebody asked me, what is magic? You're always talking about magic. I said, magic is when you do such a good job, nobody can figure out how you do it compared to everybody else. And that's what you got to think about. You just said it too. Can you be better? Yes. Can Disney be better even with that reputation? Yes. You can always be better. And it's not you, the organization being better, it's each individual being better because that's how it's made up. Whoever calls the government office, the person who answers the phone is the government. The person who gets your email is the government. And everybody uses the government as a name for individuals because we are who we come in contact with. And I think that's the key is at Disney, we are very clear about three things. For, number one, hire the right people, have people with empathy and discipline, and be 100% clear with them about the expectations for their attitude, and then train them so they can really provide great service. They know what they're doing, and there's nothing like running into people that know what they're doing. You know, sometimes you go to a store. I tell you a story. I went to get a fans for outdoor on my pool deck because they wore out. I went to Lowe's. They had a guy in the, they got 1 million fans in the they display. The guy working in the department didn't know anything about fans. So we went to a place called Dan's Fans. Dan knows everything about fans. He sold us. I spent twice as much money there because Dan talked me into all these things. And he was an expert. He had a great attitude. He installed them the next day, took the old ones away. I'm going, whoa. So somebody asked me, you want to get a fan? Go to Dan's Fans. And that is because, you know, I mean, there are stores that are big and that provide that. I think Costco, for instance, they're very good. When I go there, I'm very impressed. Our Publix stores here, I don't know if you have Publix in North Carolina.
We do. We have quite a few out here in town.
I
Actually,
find them to
Publix for
be
shopping supply a pleasure or something like
pleasure. And did you find everything you were looking for today? And they're really, they have great people. You know, it's an entry level job for many people, many young people, but they're all consistently nice and helpful and caring and got a good attitude. And then after you hire the right people and train them, is treat them right. You know, treat them so that they look forward to coming in. I tell people if you don't like Monday, you don't like your job. So you got to think, why don't I like Monday? Well, maybe you don't like what you're doing, or you're not how you're being treated at work, or nobody's talked to you about your promotional opportunities, or what you're going to do next, or whatever. So we hire them right, train them right, and treat them right, and all of a sudden it's met. You know, they do right, and they do. And so clarity of expectations is one thing I talk to a lot of companies about. Make a list of every expectation you have when you hire an employee. It might be a list of 25 and go over each one of those, including their attitude. And I can tell you the two most important things in anybody's career, I don't care whether they have a college degree, don't have a, is good attitude and reliability. Those two things will get you as far as you want to go in life. I don't have a college degree, and I started out. I lived in Oklahoma. I didn't know nothing. I mean, I didn't read the paper. I didn't watch the news. But I went, dropped out of college because I was too dumb to go, and went in the Army, learned a lot about discipline. The Army's not real happy with you being late to formation. So I learned to be on time. And then I went to Washington, got a job as a waiter, and I started learning about people from all over the world. And my whole life changed because when you get exposure, you know how good things can be when you go to the best places. And that just grew on me over the years at Hilton, Marriott, and of course Disney. Those three opportunities, I saw a lot of greatness, a lot of good, a lot of excellence. And when you experience excellence, you can tell the difference when you don't experience it, especially with attitude. You know, we all every day we go to the store, even in North Carolina, there's people got a bad attitude, and in Florida, and in Oklahoma, and anywhere else. And those people shouldn't be in your company. So you really want to be clear with them when you hire them. Their job is to be nice, be knowledgeable, be respectful, and if they're mad, save it till they get home. You know, we're putting on a show just like you are in the government office. The lady that answers the phone, she's got a role in the show. She's supposed to project excellence and professionalism and where everybody says, wow. And there are governments that do that, by the way. There are local governments where people just rave about how great the people are there and how nice they are. And that's because they've hired the right people, trained them, treat them right, and have been clear with them about how we do this. So it's not that hard. I'm telling you, it's not too hard to be great. It's just hard. You know, leadership is not hard. The problem is you got to make hard decisions. And most people stop when it gets hard. Like you
that?
need conversation with somebody that's not coming to work on time? Maybe she'll get better. I don't want to talk to her. She might quit. No, you got to go through the line, do the hard things. That's what leaders do: hard decisions, hard discussions, making people better every day. That's your main job. It's not giving out information to the citizen. And once you start doing the hard things, life gets so much easier. It just gets so. I tell people 99% of your problems in your life are your own fault because you don't do anything about them. And once you start dealing with them, you are relaxed, you sleep better, you have a better attitude. You can't think too much about people are not going to like you. They don't like you anyway, so don't worry about it. You got to look after yourself and be a professional and be great. And then you go home at night, you're in a good mood. You don't feel aggravation all day long. So I'm telling you, it's I mentioned to you the other day, I had 4 videos that I did for a government organization that does
Yep.
government training in 40 states. And I got it, and I'm going to send them to you. And I hope you just use them within your government. Don't let them spread widely. And these 4 videos were shown to these government officials and local and state governments all over the country. And they're in 20 minutes. It's really clear about how you do this. This is not hard. Sometimes the biggest problem is the boss. They don't set the example. They're not a good role model. They're not clear. They don't know what they're doing. And I said, as soon as you realize nobody knows what they're doing, you'll be fine. You just got to treat people right. Every problem you have in your business is people. Every problem. Every single one. There's not a problem you have it's not started by a person somewhere, either the legislature or the mayor or somebody. And once you start thinking about why did this happen, you will trace it back to a person. You hired the wrong person, you didn't train them, you're not treating them right, they have all kinds of problems. And that's what you got to really keep in your mind. The problem is somewhere along the line. It's not the problem, it's not the problem. The problem is why did this happen? And it's caused by people.
Yeah.
This is, and I have that clearly. And I'll tell you another thing. You want to be more relaxed? When you have a problem, deal with it. Don't let it stack up because then you
don't let it
sleep
linger.
well. You don't sleep, and then you're not. This is what happens to college students. They go to college, they get behind the first year, and then it just gets one problem after another, and then they go play their Xbox. And their parents will kick their butt when they come back home and they made an F or a D. So some of these basic concepts we've got to talk to people about, and I think the problem is most people are not clear on this. It's managing and leading people is hard. It's hard, man.
Yeah.
Like having children, it's hard. you know, people say, I want to be a parent. I say, are you crazy? Or I want to be a manager. I say, are you nuts? You want to ruin your life? All you're going to deal with are people. And if don't think it's not about the systems, the procedure, the operating, that can always be fixed and straightened out. And so this is what I think about every day. And I just make sure I get rid of the problem. So I sleep my 8 hours. I wake up with a good attitude because it took me a long time to learn with hard things. I was the same way when I was along my career. I avoided things. I didn't want to have a talk with somebody. I didn't want to fire somebody. I didn't want to I wanted to be liked. I wanted to be, reelected. So, but you got to be responsible because that's your job. If you're hired, that's your job. It's irresponsible not to be clear with people, and you're hurting them. If you don't tell them the truth, you're hurting them. If they're doing something that you should speak to them about, and then eventually they get in trouble because you could have stopped it way back earlier.
Yeah.
So it's not that hard. It's just deciding to do it. And the do it part is always the hardest. Most people do 80% good jobs. That 20% they don't do that gets us in trouble.
Yeah.
When you don't tell the truth, you don't do the right thing, you don't get it done on time, you don't let your boss know what's going on, you don't that's pretty much when you think about it in your own life. Just think about I tell everybody, think about 3 problems you have in your life. The 3 biggest problems, write them down and look at them, and then say, What are you going to do about it? Maybe, they say, what do you mean? I said, well, maybe you need a new wife, a new job, a new boss, go back to college, take a course. I don't know what your problem is, but you do. And I guarantee you there's a solution for every problem, but it might not be fun. It may be hard.
Yeah. So you said something there that caught my attention. You were talking about, you need to set the clear expectation. You need to communicate with folks so they know what's going on, right? But to me, that's seems easier to do with, someone who directly reports to you. But, when you're leading a large organization, I think in your bio said you had over 40,000 cast members under you at Disney. Like, how do you do that? 'Cause, I've never truly been inside of Disney World, but I've been to Disney Springs, right? That little shopping area the Disney runs. And I remember the last time I went there over spring break, I remember you could tell who was employed by Disney and who was employed by a contractor.
Bingo. Right.
And I'm curious, I don't know what the levels of separation between the if executive vice president of operations and the waiter at one of the restaurants at Disney. I'm assuming there's a handful. How do you communicate and cascade that expectation down to so many cast members? Because the person going to Disney, they're not talking to you, they're talking to that waiter, right?
That's right. And that's kind of how do you get your kids to behave when you're not with them, you know?
You
And
got some
it,
tips there. I'll take it as a new father too.
yeah, I mean, how you do it is my involvement was deep. I mean, I had 6 or 7 direct reports that were vice presidents that ran different parts of the business. And I was extremely clear with them about this philosophy I'm talking to you about. I even wrote that Great Leader Strategy, which became my Creating Magic book of here's how we run the business, guys. And their job was to make sure their managers understood that clearly. And then we took it all the way down. And then I did a newsletter every week reinforcing this stuff over and over. Just, I say, manage like a mother. Your mother never quits telling you what to do. How many times did your mother tell you to clean your room? 30.
Often,
How many
probably.
times did she
And
say,
that's my fault.
how many times do I have to tell you? Yeah, it's persistence and it's caring and it's everything you do. Role modeling is a big deal. People are watching you. What's he want? And they talk about you behind your back. Well, you better get it right, Lee. You really, you better have your name tag because the standards have been set, and everybody in the organization is responsible for the management and the employees eventually, the cast members, of understanding what the standards are and the behavior is at every level. We talk about that over and over and over. We just never quit talking about it. And the main reason is because our guests have high expectations. When I'm telling you, a mother comes to Disney World with a 4-year-old, you better not screw it up, man. She wants to meet Cinderella, and that little girl, she knows she met Cinderella. And we call it fantasy is real, Mickey and Cinderella, and reality is fantastic. On that side is bus drivers, security, cleaning bathrooms. But we all keep talking about how can we do it better? How can we make sure there's no paper towels on the floor in the bathroom? Every day better and better and better. And then there's peer pressure. The people who do a good job put a lot of pressure on the new people to say, do you understand this is how we do it here? Because it's a pride factor. We want to be great. And you have a lot more fun at work when you like what you're doing. Bill Barrett wrote a book called The Spirit of Service. And it is literally, it's got to be in you to do this aggravation every day. You got to, I say when the guests had a big problem, I don't ever get upset about that. I just deal with it. It's not going to affect me. I'm not going to get a stomachache over somebody yelling at me. Fine. I just yell at me. I don't, it's fine. I just want to solve your problem. And we've started teaching people how to deal with that. I did 51 videos also. They're 3 to 4 minutes each about how to deal with an irate customer, how to deal with an employee that is creating problems in the organization. Because how people are learning today is in 2 and 3 minute videos. People don't read anymore. And so I'll send you those if you want. You can take a look
Yeah.
at it. They're just they're very powerful and they make sense. And the thing is, the reason they're so good is because people don't think about these kind of things in that kind of detail. You're going to run into customers that are not happy. You're going to run into employees that are creating problems in the organization. Just to learn, oh, that's how you deal with that. Okay. Because people don't, most people want to do a good job. They just don't know how. They just, if you don't know, you don't know. So you get mad and you get, you say something nasty to the customer because it annoys you. And that goes nowhere. When you get angry, you lose.
Yeah.
I mean, you lose and it ruins your day too. So a lot of that kind of stuff is finding the right ways to reach people and then reinforcing it all the time, just like your mother. You know, your mother, your mother raised you with empathy and discipline. She loved you, but she would kick your butt. And then she loves you again, and she'll kick your butt. And with those two things, you always trusted her because you knew she loved you no matter what you did. Because, and as they say, your mother was getting you ready to be an adult. She wasn't. They say when you counsel a 7-year-old, you're really counseling the 25-year-old you want them to be one day.
Yeah. Oh, that makes
And I
sense.
and at work too, a lot of people you hire have no idea what excellence is because they've worked at some place and their boss was a jerk, and so they come in, they don't trust leadership. And let me tell you, it's about trust and your character and telling the truth. And all of a sudden, the environment gets where people enjoy it because dealing with an irate customer is not a big deal. I'm not going to let it emotionally bother me. I'm just going to
Yeah.
fix. We got to get over this emotional reaction to obstacles in our lives because they eat you up, and a lot of people hate their job because these reoccurring every day same things, and when they learn to just handle it pleasantly, not let the customer get to them, it all turns out better. I said to one guest one day, "Do you want to keep yelling at me, or would you like me to solve your problem?"
How did that go over?
He said, okay, because people get so mad, they say the same thing over and over and over, and they won't give you a chance to. So, all these techniques, you just learn how you're going to run into these people. I don't care. After they finish with you, they're going to Starbucks and harass that person. And then they're going to be mad on the highway and try road rage. These people go through the day and they just happen to stop by the government office and annoy those people too. But you just don't let it get you. Okay. I always say they have a problem you don't know about. It's not the problem they're dealing with. Their mother's mad at them, their financial problems, they have kid problems, drug problems, alcohol abuse. Who knows? But it's not the problem. It's just not the problem they're dealing with you with. It's an accumulation of their life is upset. And I think it is philosophical. You've got to be kind of about you got to be a half psychologist to deal with people today. You got to say, oh, okay, what's going on here? Why did they talk to me that way? To try to get some. Why did that happen? They come in and start yelling at you. There was no parking. That's not the problem. It's just they're got 12 other problems before they got to your office. And that was the one that broke the camel's back. I wake up every morning. I say, okay, I wonder what the first obstacle going to be today. Because I said the first one's getting up. The second one is doing whatever my wife wants me to do, and then traffic, and then dealing with some nut that doesn't do what they say they're going to do. And you just go. You're on. I think that's all we do all our lives. Is we're born and we deal with obstacles, and then we die. And if you handle them well, you have a decent life. You don't let them, but you can't let an obstacle take over you. You take over the obstacle and doing it in a pleasant, professional way. And I can, some of this training may be good for you guys to just have those conversations. Have everybody tells you 3 things that they hate about their job, and then go about fixing them. Okay, and they won't even tell you. Tell them to write it on a piece of paper and drop it in a bucket so nobody knows who wrote it, and then take them out one at a time. and see if there's a trend there, and then try to go about fixing that procedure, that operating guideline, that rule, that something they hate. And you'll get a bunch of stuff that you can work on, and maybe 6 months from now, there's less. And people are going, things got better around here. Because things get better slowly and they get worse slowly. And the management's got to keep that under control, just like the parents. You can't fire your children, you have to develop them. And that's the same at work. It's better to develop people than look for new ones.
Yeah. That whole developing rather than finding new people, it's an interesting piece because, I'm sure you have this at Disney, right? You talked about not everyone's used to that standard of customer service at Disney, right? So I'm sure you had lots of cast members who came in, they went through whatever your version of like a new employee orientation is, got hit in the hand, had 100 times of great customer service. They go out into the park the first day and they don't do it, right? Because they're not used to it. What is that process like of saying, of helping, of understanding, is this person unwilling to do it, or is this person just not equipped to do it yet?
And I'll tell you one of the best things you can do when somebody does that. You say, why did you do that? Did you forget what we talked about when I interviewed you? Did you forget about why? And make them a part of it. Make them tell you why. Somebody says somebody's late to work every day. Say, why are you late? And they say, well, traffic. No. There's traffic every day. Don't be late anymore. You're not going to be working here. And all of a sudden, we're not clear with people. And then we don't know what their personal standards are. Or you don't have a clue how many problems they have that causes them not to do the right thing out there. They've got 20 problems they take to work with them, and they go out and to deal with customers, and they've got their mother's sick and their wife's mad at them and their kids are drugs. And so our management's out in the operations, paying attention. And then we take them on the side and say, hey, let me talk to you. Next time, this is the way we do it. I told you this before. I want to remind you, and I want to remind you this, to be here, you've got to do it the way standards are, the way that keeps the company consistent. We do it this way. I said when I was in the Army, there's an Army way, and you better do it that way. And then there's a Hilton way, and I did it that way. Then there's a Marriott way, and there's a Disney way. And you got to have your way, and it's got to be totally clear. And as Mr. Marriott told me once, he said, the only way you get excellence is education, training, and enforcement. Bingo. Just like your mother did with you. Enforcement. Your mother didn't care if you were happy. She cared if you were successful and would move out of the house someday. It's, these are all logical. And it's just good to be reminded of them that these are just common. But now a lot of people didn't have the parents you had, or a lot of people didn't have a situation, or they were homeless, or they were maybe adopted, or maybe something in their background, they don't have that. Their brain was not wired the same way yours was for being loved and cared for, and so you got to remember that foster children. Some of your employees were foster kids, and you got to remember that they don't have that same emotional fulfillment. Let me tell you, once you go back to work and you start looking at each person, you're going to go, I wonder what their problem was. And there's something back there that creates who we are. Could have been your grandmother made you a great person, your mother, your father, a teacher. And then a lot of people don't get that. There's a lot of insecurity. There's a lot of anxiety today. I guarantee you got anxiety in your workplace, that people are suffering from depression, anxiety. And we've got to pay attention to that. We got to pay attention to that. I went through it myself. My wife almost died in 2008, and I had to take care of her. She was in the hospital 67 days.
Oh, wow.
After I ended up with anxiety. First, I couldn't sleep. Then I got anxiety. And then I got depression. Had to get treated by a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I had to make a lot of changes because, and I never thought I could be a depressed person. It happened when I was 65. I said, nothing bothers me. Well, boy, it did when it was my family.
Yeah.
And we got to be aware of this, you know. When somebody does something, you got to say, I wonder why she said that. What happened back when she was 14? Did somebody, you know, it's, I said half the stuff in your brain's not true. Half the stuff your parents taught you is not true. And you got to really evaluate how you think, because a lot of the way you think is not right. It's
Yeah.
like just a bunch of stuff up there. The good and the bad, it all goes in, and then it comes back to you out of your mouth, making decisions. It's a little collection. It's like a trash can up there. And then boom, you say something inappropriate or sexual harassment or not treating. I mean, it is very complex. And that's why a lot of people go see a psychiatrist or psychologist. That's why your wife tries to tell you how to be better. It's, but I think just understanding it's a complex to manage
Yeah.
people. But you're going to help them a lot when you start talking about these things. You're going to relieve them because they're thinking it. And a lot of environments don't want to talk about this stuff. You know, that's just leave that at home. You don't leave that at home. You bring it to work every day. I mean, if you knew everything people were thinking at work for you, you'd have a nervous breakdown. Problem. And you know a lot of it already. There's a bunch you don't know. And so we've got to be kinder. I asked my granddaughter what's the most important thing in customer service when she was 12 when I was writing a book. She said, the most important thing, Pappy, is to be nice. You know, be nice. If you can do that, you'll get a long way. When you're nice to other people, you become nicer over time. Everything, you know. We have people come to Disney or a mess and they become better people by being around positive people. They become better.
Yeah.
They become less
I'm good.
they become less racist, less bigoted, less they're around a positive environment. When you're around a positive environment, you change. Uh, and so the better you can make the environment and more straightforward and truthful and focus on helping people get trained and developed and have a future, it happens slowly. All of a sudden you go, wow. Somebody come back 10 years from now and say, well, wow, that's different when I worked here. You guys have really made it great. That's what happens slowly. It's like your kids. You raise them slowly. How old's your child?
I got a 4-year-old daughter and an 18-month-old son.
Okay, so don't screw that up.
I'm trying not to.
If you screw it up, it's your fault. So somebody told me how you raise kids. The first 5 years, you love them, hug them, hold them, have fun with them, make them feel so safe and loved. Then when they're 6 to 14, you teach them about discipline, doing the right thing, clean your room, getting in trouble and dealing with it, and some empathy too. And then after 14, that's it. It's over. You've done all you can. Don't start a big argument with teenagers. You've done your work those first 14 years. And it's because I didn't like my mother when I was 15, but I found out she was right. I remember she did those things for me, wouldn't let me do anything I wanted, and called me on inappropriate behavior, so it's yeah, being a leader, a manager, and a parent, that's tough jobs. But you can't just think about the work. You got to think about the people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I think for me, I get that, being a leader is definitely not easy, but I got a team 10 under me. I got 3 folks who directly report to me. And I say I love being a leader because I love the people I work with. I got a great team. And when you have the right people on board, you look forward to work. You look forward to working with them, and it's a real joy.
Yeah, and all you need to do is make one mistake in the future and add an idiot to your team.
Yeah.
Your team will not be happy.
Yep.
So that's it. You're already doing the right thing. Right people, right culture, right training, and treating the people well with respect. It's that simple. It's that simple. We try to make it too complicated. You don't have to have a Harvard degree to do this.
we were trying to teach my 4-year-old, she must have been 3 when we did this. We were trying to teach her, like, how we act in the world. So we came up with this family value of kindness. Our family value is we're kind. And my wife and I would always joke with each other, like, we really need more values. But what we've noticed in the last year or so with her is you really don't. Like, my daughter's just really good at understanding kindness. And she will say, Daddy, that's not kind.
I think you're right. I think you're right on. Kindness. Everything else will follow. Absolutely. Because when you're kind, you tell the truth. When you're kind, you're careful how you present something. When you're kind, your goal is not to damage anybody by any discipline or destruction or comments or conversations. And I think that's a great one. I mean, that's really powerful. That's powerful.
I learned a lot from my daughter. I've discovered that she might be 4 years old, but I swear she's wiser than I am.
She probably is. She probably is. When you're born, you're a blank slate. Uh, they say we're all born the same. It's education that makes us different. And part of that education is your parents developing and training.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a real good for you. Good for you.
So I have a question for you. Someone, I'm in a leadership role. I'm a father of young children, right? And it's something about work-life balance, right? I'm sure when you were at Disney and Hilton and Marriott, you probably worked really hard, right?
I did.
But I've also heard you talk in the podcast about being really present with your family and with your kids, right? To the point where your son, if I remember correctly, followed in your footsteps and went to work at Disney and had a good amount of success there. How how did you do it? Like, how were you both a really good executive for Disney and a good father? How do you do that? I
I
want
think
to learn, and I'm sure a lot of audience wants to learn that too.
I think how you do it, it's not how much time you spend with your kids or your wife or whoever you're with, it's how you spend the time, paying attention. When you get home at night and spend it with your kids, don't turn the TV on. And when they want to see you and want to play with them, be about. Kids don't want, I asked my son once, I said, did we do a good job raising you? Because I was traveling all the time. And all he knows is when I was there, I was focused. I was there. I was with him. I didn't play golf on weekends. I spent the weekend with my family, with my wife. We'd go to lunch, go to dinner. I talked to him every night on the phone. And today, God, with FaceTime and all, your kids will think you're there. And you just think about if your wife ever says, "Are you listening to me?" That's not a question. You're not. And you got to go home. And this has got to be the way you come in the door, you're home and you're focused. You do it on purpose, not by maybe. You see your wife, I love you, darling. How's the day? You sit down, take care of the kid. Kids don't need to spend 10 hours with you, but the hours they spend, they'll say later on, my dad was always there, he was available. They'll run to you when you get home at night. A lot of people go home, get a drink, turn the TV on, or get on their phone, and the kids kind of are over there doing something. You're not with them. And on weekends, I always spent weekends. I take my son to the park. I would take him to Central Park every Thursday, my day off. When I worked in New York, he was 2 years old. I had one of those child carriers. I let my wife sleep late that day. He and I went off to the Waldorf Astoria where I worked, had breakfast, then we went to Central Park. We had fun all day long, got home around 3 in the afternoon. To him, that was like unbelievable, you know, planned. It was planned. And anticipation, telling your kid, I'm going to take you here on Sunday or Saturday. They love, oh my God, even if it's to the water fountain. I mean, they went with their dad to the lake, to the pond, to the park, that's what it's all about. And you got to think about, because you know what'll happen if you don't plan it and think about it all the time. One day you'll wake up and you're 65 and you wonder what happened. Well, I was going to do it. No, you got to plan it, schedule it in your, you got, give your kids, tell them on Thursday, we're going to go to this park on Saturday morning and we're going to, and they look there, oh, when are we going? When are we going? Or we're going to go to Disney, or we're going to go to a movie, or we're going to, whatever it is. And that anticipation, then you go together. And to them, it's much bigger than you think. It's a big deal for them. Playing board games with them, huge. You know,
Yeah.
you know what I mean. It's like
It's the simple things.
it's all simple. It's all simple, and it's about time management. That's what I say. Manage your time, which is manage your life. Manage your relationships. Manage your relationship with your wife. Manage your relationship. And I've been married 56 years. People say, Lee, how you doing? I said, well, Priscilla hasn't left me and nobody's in rehab, so we're doing pretty good. The kids are all good. And my son's been married 31 years. My mother was married 5 times. I grew up in a very dysfunctional family. I've had 3 names since I was born. I got Cockerell when I was 16. My husband, number 4. So I had a mess. We decided, no, keep this thing together. We work out things. Problem. Do we ever have an argument? Oh, yeah, but less. And it's usually my fault because I'm the insecure one in the family. But, and that's why if you're married and you have a problem, you sit down together and deal with it. Don't blame, just figure, well, how are we going to deal with this? When your kids are doing something you don't like, sit down and have a chat with them. Hey, guy, we don't do that in our family, remember? Remember, and I like the nice. Remember, we're nice family. We're a nice family. And they'll get that so embedded in their brain that that'll work forever.
That's the goal.
They'll never forget that, and they'll use it for their family. Because those early things that get embedded, oh man. The only reason I'm half alive is my grandmother loved me and told me I was the best thing that ever happened in the world, and I could do anything I wanted. My mother was married 5 times, she was busy, but I had somebody telling me over. I lived with her for 2 years. I mean, over and over and over, I was getting this, I'm okay, I'm good, you're great. You got to hear this stuff, and your wife's got to hear it, and you got to hear it. That's why at work, people need to hear that they're doing a good job, not just on their annual review. I hate annual reviews. I said, you don't do annual reviews on your kids. Every day you talk to them and compliment them and get up the annual review. I hate HR for that. Get rid of the annual reviews. They're nonsense. Half the time you tell them something at the end of the year, they don't even remember it happening. You say, hey, John, 3 or 6 months ago, you were late to work on a Saturday. What? Do it then. Your mother wouldn't wait till tomorrow. You run in the street, she'll kick your rear end right now. You shouldn't do your annual review. That's it. I don't know where that thing came from. But daily review. You do a daily review with your children. Tell them how great they are and what they need to do better. Same thing. I care about you. That's why I'm helping. That's why I'm giving you this feedback. That's what you said. And if I didn't care about you, I wouldn't bother to have this discussion.
Yeah.
Your mother, she didn't love that every day having to deal with you when you didn't do what you were supposed to do. She gave up a lot. Mothers are not mean. They care. They care deeply.
Yeah.
Those are good things. And this kind of discussion is everybody should be having it with people they work with and bringing this into the workplace because it's not just business. It's life. It's real life with real problems. There's no training course on this. It's person to person. There's no overhead projector. There's like daily interactions, daily observation, paying attention, going through your day, fixing and doing and thinking. Because when you think about people, and people will 10 years from now remember you. They'll talk about their boss. He was great. He had a hard conversation with me one day and straightened me out, and that's why I'm where I am today. Yeah. So it's
Yeah, I remember those bosses I remember I had a boss. Her name was Monica Chaparro, and she was tough. And I remember she would call me out, and at the time thinking, "Well, this is nothing big," but she said, "No, like this is my expectation." And I remember I was leading a training on her behalf, and she wasn't in the room, and she heard something I said, and I got called into her office right away. She said, "Did you say this?" I said, "Yes." She said, "That's not what we do around here. This is what we say." And I never made that mistake again.
you never forgot it either.
I've never forgotten, and I'm very grateful for it because think but yeah, to your
Did it
point,
right away. She
yeah,
didn't wait for doing something. Good for her. God bless her.
yeah, and I think
She made you better.
yeah, it's the feedback in the moment. I remember I used to referee soccer before the pandemic, and then I had kids, and I stopped. But they would always teach us if you don't deal with the issue right away, someone's going to get hit later on.
Or hurt, or
Yeah,
you were irresponsible and somebody got killed, or somebody
yeah.
didn't. I mean, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, good. Those kids are going to be your best development program for your whole life.
I hope so.
Well, they will be. I guarantee you.
Yeah,
I guarantee you. What happens at home and work are so intertwined that all those people you work with have kids too. They're struggling with this same concept, how to get it right. And kids can be unreasonable. They want what they want. I told you I lied to my mother every day to get what I want. I never trust a child, they lie. So, yeah, well, there you go.
well, I really appreciate you coming on today and having this conversation. I think our audience will really enjoy it. I've definitely learned a lot. And I think I encourage people to go to your website to check out your books and to listen to your Creating Disney Magic podcast. I really enjoy it because it's what 10-15 minutes, maybe an episode, and you just tackle a question. You had a recent episode where you talked about when you were general manager of a Marriott, you'd walk the whole property multiple times a day. And I was actually talking to one of my bosses in our C-suite here, and she's like, "Yeah, that's a really good point." She was talking about how C does it, and how C's learn about it. And I was like, "Oh, I never knew C did it. You did it." I'm like, she's like, "But you work from home." I'm not going to walk into your house, but yeah, I do walk to other areas. Um,
Those little concepts, then I knew everything was going on. I knew every employee and they knew me and the relationships were strong. That was half the battle. They say, you better get this fixed. Lee's coming again at 11. You know, it's like your kids. You say, I'll be in at 10:30 to check your room. And if you don't have it cleaned up, I'm not taking you to the park Saturday. And then, woo, it gets clean, you know? Yeah. I think accountability is really important. That people
yeah,
got to do what they say they're going to do. That's half the battle in life because so many people don't. Promises, promises. And they don't do it because they don't, people want to do good. They're just disorganized and they don't. And that's why my time management, I just think time, get yourself to organize what you're going to do today, what you're not going to do, what you're going to do. Start, you know, yeah, yeah, you'll be great. And I'll send you some stuff and you can look it over. But good luck to you.
I appreciate it. And a tradition here on Gov Love is we always play some walkout music, and we always ask our guest if you could be the DJ for Gov Love, what would be your walkout song?
Oh, I don't know. You know what I like is the Lion King.
Lion King, all right. Any particular
Lion
Lion
King.
King song?
That's a Disney movie that really struck me. I didn't know about Disney movies, so I could join the company really much. But that one was, it has a strong message in it about kindness, leadership. And so when I hear that, it's kind of inspiring to me. Yeah, yeah. So there you go.
All right. Well, that ends our episode for today. Thank you, Lee, for coming on and talking with us. GovLove is brought to you by ELGL, and the best way to support GovLove is to become an ELGL member. You can reach us online at elgl.org/GovLove or at Twitter at GovLove Podcast.
Step into the sun. There's more to see than can ever be seen, more to do than can ever be done. There's far too much to take in here, more to find than can ever be found. But the sun rolling high, the sapphire sky keeps great and small on the endless round.